Hey guys, my name is RyanCentral and welcome to HitScan. We have a patch today, surprisingly enough. I didn't expect it to be so soon after the start of episode 2, which started last week obviously. Not only do we have a couple of nerfs to go over, I say couple, we have one, and it's to Jett, but we also have pretty much a full rework to the map of Split. I say full rework because every major corner that battles happen on Split has been changed in some capacity other than the mailroom, B heaven kind of area. But the B site, the A site, and mid have all had drastic changes that we will highlight in this video, showing you before and afters, and giving you a quick perspective on why these changes are really good. I really like them. Before we get started on that though, a quick shout out for those that are interested in the esports scene. A lot of information has come out from the VALORANT Champions Tour, the Challenges series for North America. The dates have been announced. Nerd Street Gamers are going to be broadcasting and running that side of the tournament, and so if you are interested in both the North American and European scene, I've set up a smaller YouTube channel. It's not a major one like this one, but if you want some content, some side content on analysis of the teams in both Europe and North America, be sure to give that a follow. It's in the description below in the top comment, as well as the patch notes if you want to have a quick read of those. I was in a position where I honestly didn't know if I wanted to go through these changes one by one and give my perspective, but I honestly feel that you guys will just want to see the changes, and then you can leave if you want to once you know what these changes look like. But obviously give me your opinions as well as the comments, because I'm very curious to know what people are thinking about this. But whilst I'm showing you on screen the before and after in some of these changes, the devs do say that this Split update is focused around improving attacker options on the map, as well as reducing 50-50 checks, the depth of certain corners, and opening specific areas on the map by increasing choke point widths. I really like some of these changes. I do think that Split was still a problematic map even after the changes, and even after people sort of saying that Split isn't as bad as people make it out to be. I do agree there to an extent, but that doesn't mean that there aren't inherent problems with this map, but I do think that a good portion of them have been increased, and I do think from an attacking perspective, this map is a lot better. I think going through the changes really quick now, I think these changes to B main are really good. From somebody that plays a lot of Cypher and Omen on Split, I find myself anchoring on B quite a lot, and I do think that it's incredibly straightforward to hold from a typical B execute, to the point that even in pro play, you cannot attack B from B main if you don't have any form of mid pressure. So it does make for pretty difficult executes, especially if you're playing in solo queue, that are going to be hard to orchestrate, whereas a defender just sits pretty on the site, and they can do quite a lot, especially from this angle that I'm showing on screen, where you have the site that you can obviously plant the spike on. By this box on the right hand side is typically where you could hold as a defender. Obviously it's a sort of default spot, and it's very difficult to move you from an attacking perspective without using too much strong utility, right? So it's very much a default place to play, and so the opening up of B main allows you to throw utility a little bit deeper from a safe position, and also you have this box as well that can provide cover on the left hand side. I also really like a subtle thing is that you see this lip. The main thing about this is not only do you have a bit more of a space to peek right as you're looking down B main from a defending perspective, this is also a place where you can plant the spike. So now you can plant the spike on this corner, on this little lip, and then hold from B main and still be able to see the spike. This is something that we obviously didn't have before. It's obviously something that's going to help attacking players post-plant by allowing them to hold B main and still be able to see where the spike has been left. Use shock dart lineups or mollies to delay it a bit more. Beforehand, if you planted on B, you would have to be a bit more aggressive with taking space. You'd have to push through CT or up onto heaven. If you didn't have control of those areas, it was going to be a really easy retake for the B defenders. You also have this box, which is really nice. I think that if you are playing on the B site and you know the attackers are coming from heaven, you don't really have any options of places to hide. So this is a nice one that forces the attackers to check it just to be careful. It's the same on A. I like this corner that it's been reduced when it comes to the depth that this corner is in. I think it's a lot more fair and a lot easier to clear from an attacking perspective post-plant. It's the same with removing this corner completely. I don't think it really fixes too much, but I don't think much needed to be fixed in this specific case. It just reduces some of the BS that's on Split, and I think that's important. When it comes to mid play, there's quite a few things to highlight. Again, this doorway has been made a little bit wider, and also if you're in this space, you can't hold on this right side anymore. You can't set up a crossfire, and you are not putting yourself in a position where you're attacking, where you have to kind of go quickly left and right. Now you can clear the angle on the left because you can see a little bit deeper, and you know that nobody's going to be there, for example, and then you can clear the right hand side bit by bit. Similar to the changes that are on Icebox, on Haven, it's a really important place that they've put this, and from a defending perspective, it's going to be really difficult to hold these vents and ropes. But to be honest, you don't really have somebody playing there anyway. When it comes to a bottom mid in the marketplace, they've removed this doorway so you have a bit more open space to see. The devs said that they should make the map feel more open and allow you to push through and clear this area without relying as heavily on utility. Stuff like Sage and Raze utility is super important. But I do really like the stuff that we're seeing so far. In sewers, they've reduced the depth of this corner, which is pretty straightforward. And then we get onto the A site, where there isn't that many changes. There's only 3 total, but I think attacking and defending on A is relatively fair. I think that's the better site out of the 2, so it didn't need too much changes. But what it's done is it's sloped this wall, so you again don't have 50-50 angles to check as you're pushing through this doorway, which again is super good and very difficult as a defender to rely on too many of these angles to catch people out on, and it should increase the value of controlling A ramps from an attacking perspective. Also, when it comes to this little slope on the A site, it's been made a little bit sharper, so you can't just hide in this corner. It allows the back corner to be cleared slightly earlier from attackers. It's still safe from A tower, which is important, but you can now successfully clear this spot by stepping onto rafters without having to drop down towards site, which you had to do before. And also there's a bit more of a sloped wall near screens, which allows you to move out of screens more safely with, again, not putting yourself in a position where there's somebody to your left or onto your right. I love these changes. I think when it comes to map changes in the past, they've been moderate, like the Icebox changes. They're kind of like, obviously these are steps in the right direction, but by how much? I do think the split is in a much better spot than Icebox personally. So these changes, whilst they're pretty steep in regards to the changes that they're making, it's not completely breaking the site, and all of these changes I think will have a positive effect. I like that the devs are going through the maps and fixing some of the issues that people have, as opposed to just churning out maps, which it sounds like is what they're doing at the moment. Icebox came a bit earlier, but I would rather the devs take their time with making good maps as opposed to pooing out maps at this point, because people know that we need more. That's the content that Valorant needs to really get right. Got plenty of agents. I think we could settle with the agents that we have for another 3 or 4 months at this point. But maps, I think we need them a little bit more urgently, but not urgently to the point that we're getting maps that are not very fun to play. I don't want another Icebox or another Split. I want another Ascent, or maybe even another Haven, maybe something like that. You get the point. I'd rather them take the time and make good maps. So I like the fact that they're going through some of these maps, making changes. I hope they take a second pass at Icebox. I think more can certainly be done there, but I think now Split is in a really good point. Now that we've gone over the changes to Split, let's talk about the nerf to Jett. It's a small one in the grand scheme of things, but I do think it's important when it comes to consistency across the game, and there is a line in the patch notes that I think is worth highlighting when it comes to future changes that could come to duelists, and that could be important. The smoke duration of Jett's Cloudburst has been decreased from 7 seconds, which it used to be, to now 4.5. Bear in mind that these Cloudbursts, way back when the game launched, were about 4 seconds, and then Jett was buffed a pretty major amount to the point that she's now very meta. The smoke duration for Jett has been increased from 7 seconds to 4.5. It's a pretty steep nerf when it comes to the duration of her smokes. I don't know if we'll have gameplay of it at this point, but I do think that it makes sense considering the changes that have come through to both Omen, but also Brimstone. The devs say in continuation of the controller changes from patch 2.0, we felt it was important to consider Jett smokes as well. We increased Jett's smoke duration to 7 seconds in patch 1.0 from then 4 seconds, and we are partially undoing that now. We found the result of that change was that Jett became a substitute for a controller role, which I find interesting. And aggressive teams could make use of her smokes quickly to take space without relying on a dedicated Brimstone or Omen, for example. This is part of a pattern of duelists superseding more utility-focused agents that we will continue to look at in the future. Now that is interesting. I think it's very much key that because they now have 5 duelists in the game with Yoru, they want to make sure that initiators, sentinels, controllers with smokes, for example, are better in some capacity than duelists. That could be with flashes as well, so I don't know if we'll see more breach or sky buffs in the future, but it's certainly something that could be interesting, and they are very conscious of duelists being able to do too much. I think that's the main thing. Jett can use her smokes to create temporary windows for high action plays, but brief enough to ensure that controllers are where teams look for when it comes to vision blocking. Because Brimstone smokes are now 20 seconds, you want them to feel stronger. Because that was the main thing for me with Omen being nerfed, Brimstone being buffed. I was joking with my friends and stuff like stuff with Miska and other coaches that you would just play Jett in that controller role because her smokes are relatively long, they're much faster, and she's also super strong when it comes to the utility that she can provide and the stuff that she can do. So I think this change makes sense. I don't think it's a huge nerf for Jett players, but I think it's important to get some sense of consistency with the controller changes. I'm still not a fan. I don't think it's as much of a big deal as maybe I'm making it out to be as an Omen player, but I don't think that Brimstone is as good as he could be, but I also think he's not as fun as he could be either. I think Omen before was not only very impactful with the paranoia and the smokes, he is also insanely fun to play, and I don't know if I can say the same about Brimstone, personally. But again, curious to see what you guys think specifically on that one. But that's going to do it for us today. I think that we can just cover the changes and move on from there. Thank you very much for watching. Like I said at the start of the video, if you want to check out some of the YouTube stuff in regards to Valorant esports, check out the other channel. It's in the description below, along with the patch notes, if I remember to put them in all honesty. But thanks for watching. Take care. We'll see you soon. Bye-bye.